Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the first critique hour in a while. I have not done this since the start of June, I think. It has been a very, very difficult time. Uh, Working on the house, finishing up with the house for the most part. Um, uh, we only had a stove installed like a month ago or two, or a month and a half ago. So it was a long time where things were going pretty rough and living was really difficult. I really didn't have a stable placement where everything goes. And being an artist, you need your workspace. You need a comfortable workspace, a familiar workspace, which I didn't have for half a year. Um, so I realized that had a big toll on my, way I can manage critique hour, the way I can mentally approach teaching. So I let myself slowly piece back together my old routine. I got back into private tutoring again, and then slowly moving back into Patreon tutoring, and then slowly moving back into Critique Hour. And I felt like, the moment I move back into Critique Hour, that's the milestone. I'm really gonna be back, and I hope, there's no more delays. There's really no more major delays. I have some painting projects here and there around the house, which I can do in a weekend. Um, I'm in recovery. The work was so bad that I can't hold my pen tablet, the tablet pen the same way anymore because just leaning on my hand, its own pinky, just leaning on my hand's own pinky is not easy. It's hard to draw. It's hard to, lean on my elbow. My arms are hurting. My back is worse than it's ever been. I'm back on pain medication, but it's a big accomplishment building a house and doing it, not without hiring any people and learning so much and developing the resilience and the strength and the patience and the change of mindset. And it's like a complete pilgrimage that I underwent. I'm really proud of what we've accomplished, and yeah, it's just been a really, really crazy time of incubation and metamorphosis, and I'm really proud to be back. Thank you guys for waiting so long, but we were always going to come back here. This is our Mecca, this is where we come back to. And We hit 100K subscribers. Finally. I'm so happy. I'm going to change things up a bit. I'm going to try to focus more on just where I get the most interaction from you guys, which is probably Instagram. So I'm going to try to promote Instagram more. I'm going to try to bring in more critique hour before and after previews on Instagram. I'm going to try to incorporate it more since you guys are pretty active there and I can get right to your phones. YouTube isn't that great at sending me notifications through comments. YouTube used to be the best way for me to contact you guys. I'm still not that comfortable with Reddit. It used to be Google Plus community. Facebook is still also really iffy because they don't really let me get a hold of all of you. They put a cap on how many people who went in and liked my page. I can't access all the people that liked my page unless I pay. But they liked my page, so they've already subscribed, but apparently Facebook is evil apparently. So I can't access you guys through YouTube. I don't get notifications for some reason. I can't access you guys through Facebook. And Twitter I barely use just because it's so convoluted and I just want to be able to write up full things and there's just so many things on Twitter all the time. So I think Instagram and the Discord community for those who are on it are the best ways for me to get a hold of you guys, but I can't have a public Discord. We'll never have a public Discord. I've done that. I've been there. It's nothing but chaos and it's unpoliced and it's hard to police. It's hard to trust moderators to police 2,000 member Discord because you have to constantly hire moderators and it's hard to find moderators that are dedicated to the rules. So I thought Instagram is the best way for me to get a hold of you guys and contact you guys directly and post stuff and announcements. I'm going to try to do that more often. Um, and that's it, really. It's been a wild, wild time. 2020 is still not done with us, but hopefully it will be soon. Everyone keeps blaming the year, and I've been telling people, yo, things have been shitty since 2016, y'all. Things have been crappy. Things haven't been good since, like, I don't know, season 6 of Game of Thrones, season 5. So, things have just been downhill. Who knows what our new herald of a new age will be, but hopefully it's not a police state. Hopefully it's not term two for that orange bastard. Hopefully it's somewhere positive that the world can move toward. Let's get started with some announcements. I will be uploading a community challenge very, very soon. It is the challenge that I gave my patrons, but it's a little bit more different. It's a little bit adjusted. Some of my own creative writing that you guys have to illustrate, which might be really fun. For those who want to support me on Patreon, just as a watcher, $1 patron is all you have to join if you feel like giving back. If everybody on the Reddit community joined as $1 patron, I really wouldn't need to announce it anymore. And I thought I would stop, but then there was the big break of 6 months working on my house, so I haven't really been promoting Patreon as much as I should have. And to upload stuff for Critique Hour and get into the Critique Hour folder for the Critique Hour queue, you just have to go to istebrak.com and go to the Reddit icon here. For apprentices on Discord, I just sent out your assignments for this month, and I have also sent out the rewards for this month. So my latest illustration, the full process, the narration, it's a design journal, what my thoughts are, my latest change in techniques, all of my personal brushes, and the PSD have been awarded to patrons of the Apprentice tier and Initiate tier. Initiate tier doesn't have brushes though. So if you guys want to get a hold of those rewards and give back to the community, you may do so on Patreon. But let's get started on the stars of the show today. So we have, I'm sorry I'm not reading the comments just yet. If you guys have any questions, please make sure you at Istebrak or just write Istebrak. I think you just have to write my name now for it to notify me, and I will reply to you at the end of the stream. I'm not sure if my moderators are present. Yes, they are. Thank you guys. Okay, let's get started. Sorry, I don't know what I just lagged. let's get let's get started. So this piece is beautiful, but the light seems like you've added it on as an accessory, not as the total god of the painting, which the light is. The perspective on the moon is a little bit challenged. Is that supposed to be fabric behind her? Because I see a shadow, and I'm not sure if that's fabric behind her. I'm not sure I want to add any fabric detail towards the edge of the canvas, but we'll see what happens. So basically what I mean is the perspective on the moon should be a little bit more altered, just because it feels like the moon is tilted away from us. So before you had it kind of level with the camera, but if you tilt the other end of the moon away from us, you've opened the room behind her, which you've enlarged the room they're in. So that's really, really important to try to expand the space as much as possible for static backgrounds that don't really have anything on them. By the way, I'm sorry about my mic setup. I'm in a new office. I'm in a new room than my last one. My last one was really not spacious, but it was accommodating to a big mic stand. This one is not as accommodating to a mic stand because I'm in between, like it's like a little nook within a big room, but it's even smaller than the space I had in the old house. But it's not smaller, but it's again not accommodating to a really good mic. So I'm gonna have to adjust, probably reconstruct my room a little bit for a better mic setup. Anyway, so what I want to do is just fake a little ripple in the fabric behind, and that's just by cropping some sections and then shifting it up, and that'll just make it look like the fabric has rippled a little. I'm going to cast a little shadow right after that. The best fundamentals, the best changes can be done with simplicity. Write that back to me. That means that all we have to do to express some basic perspective is shift the moon just slightly and make a little crop and move it up. Fundamentals are not difficult to access. They're very easy to access. It's our brain that stands in the way of us being able to wrap our head, I guess, around the simplicity of it. If it was simple, oh, it should be easy to wrap our head around the fundamentals. Well, the brain likes to add on to something simple and complicated, especially a brain that's been taught by linear and symbolic memory of objects or the way to see things, or a line-dependent brain. So a little bit of changes here and there, and we have just a bit of perspective applied. I'm not sure I like the crop, but I definitely like the tilt in the perspective very much. I don't care about this as much, adding the tilt in the fabric. I can do it something like that, and there's a slight tilt in the fabric, maybe with, sorry, ripple in the fabric, and maybe there's a touch of liquefy that I could do on that far side. But this is a tiny part, but I just want to start background and then move forward because I'm going to be laying a big old shadow on top of everything. And I want to get that out of the way before I touch the face, right? So I'm just going to, I mean, it didn't do shit, but let's just, it did something at least. All right, and then I'm going to extend this shadow down. So I have big plans for the community. I have some challenges for the rest of the summer. I have another Harvest Goddess challenge, design challenge for you guys. We had a lot of fun with that last year. You guys remember that? Another fall challenge, Halloween challenge. I can't wait for those. It's just this part of the year. Always, it's like a slide. You just slide right through it. It's so much fun. We always have so much fun in the community, and I want to definitely be done with the house before then. Even though I lost my summer working on the house, but it's okay. I wasn't really doing anything. Then a new layer on darken. I grab the background dark value, and I'm gonna just throw it everywhere. You cast a shadow on this portrait, but you didn't cast it anywhere else in the painting. That's not good. You do have some bounce light, which was barely visible because you had so much light on the painting anyway. If she's like a vizier who's, behind the curtains helping the king, she's not necessarily royalty. If she's a princess watching a speech from behind the curtain or something, it doesn't really matter. We're not making her evil. We're just adding to the drama of the light. But I wonder why you have such a soft expression on a character that, she's smiling, she seems very motherly on a character that is in a cast shadow wearing green and villain green, no less. So, anyway, we'll talk about that later. So I'm going to clean up the cast shadow where the light does reach. I'm going to keep things dark towards the lower half of the canvas. We don't need things to be that bright. And I'm going to darken with that communal kind of green, I guess, is the anywhere on the gold of the fabric that doesn't have immediate light shining on it, meaning that I will allow that green, that dark green, that universal green to create a shine. So on the far side of the shoulder, where would the light be to make the gold trim come out like that? So wherever there is no light, there is no gold shimmer. Basic rules to help bring in that volume. The hair is casting a shadow, so there would be no gold trim all the way to the hair. And just look at that instant volume. We've created a space in between the body and the hair to fill in with a shadow. Suddenly we have volume. Oh, Istebrak, how would I come up with this stuff? Well, you just gotta look at your drawing and ask the question, where can I put a shadow? I understand that not everyone can think up this stuff on their own without a critique or someone to point it out. How do I see it? I just zoom out. I stay zoomed out and I look and I'm like, it's too much gold. I want to limit the gold. Where can I afford to limit gold logically? And that's anything where the light isn't touching. There's big, bodies of hair blocking out the gold. So I'm trying to think the way you guys do, and I understand if my critiques aren't easy to access on your own, like easy to duplicate on your own, and that the logic isn't easy to access, but it definitely is if you just follow the routine. Take a moment, zoom out, and just think about where the light cannot go. So I worked on the background first. That was my largest brush movement, and now my second largest, third largest, next step of brush movement. My brush is this size right now, so that's the next step. Again, follow the routine. Stay large, don't oversize everything. And then we've got her shadow on the moon itself. I'm zooming out to make sure I do that right. Instant volume. Cast shadows are amazing ways of creating space in between objects because we're reminding people that this object is in the way of this object, and that's possible because this is a real space. And then we've got the upper half of the canvas, which I would like to drown in a little bit more shadow just for that drama. I usually do this at the end of the painting, but because I want to encourage the large brush to small brush pattern, I'm just going to do that. I'm just still on the darken mode, and I'm darkening this way. So just from these changes, let's look at the impact just from these changes. I did do a perspective change here, so I'll do that here as well. This part of her dress does not follow the shape of her bosom, I guess we can say, and we just need to make it swell out with the shape of her breasts so that the perspective is appropriate. It was not making any sense because it was suddenly flat in a space that should do the exact opposite on a female body, right? Alright, so that looks a little bit more accurate. I'm going to try to mess around a little bit more on liquify just so that it doesn't look shabby. Okay. So I want to thank everyone who joined as a watcher. You guys are just amazing. Thank you so much. I know that, it's not necessarily the most glamorous tier, but you guys still joined. You guys still went through the checkout. You guys still did it, and I've had so many recently. So thank you so much to everyone who joined. I wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit more in the reward tier, but I have not been able to just sit down and do as much personal work as I'd like. But I've been trying to revisit the things that used to inspire me, like soundtracks and stuff like that, and trying to get back into it. It's just really hard to do that sometimes when you have, all this other work that demands 100% of your physical, presence and mental capacity. Building a house is not easy, y'all. Okay. I'm going to just fix the seam here so it's not distracting. It's too much of a tangent. And then we will finally show the before and after of the impact of the light, and then move forward from there to the. All right, you want to be a bitch? Normal. To the face, to what's happening on the character design itself, because nothing is really making sense over here. Seems like you just put things together and then wanted the painting to be done. Absolutely not. This green is a very particular type of green in storytelling. If you're a costume designer in movies and you have to put this green on a villain and another green on a protagonist, logically, answer this question, everyone. There's low latency today, so you'll be able to hear me directly after I ask. Logically, would you give the antagonist the same green that you give the protagonist? The evil guy and the good guy don't get the same green. If you were the costume designer and they paid you millions to work on, I don't know, the next Apocalypto or something. No, you would not. It would be a darker green, a murkier green, this type of green. Next thing I'm going to do is just sort of smudge away the lower half. And it also feels like her upper arm is way too low. No, 9. No, because I learned not to in this Rex CritiqueHour, duh. No, it should be different greens, yes. So there's a more vitality green, and then there's more the decay green. This looks more like a decay green. So her arms are actually supposed to be all the way up here. Okay? Where you had them before, she was straight up Slender Man. But let me not focus on that. Let us not be distracted. Let me show you the difference in just the lighting. Before, a little bit too much visible. After, we have presence of the background. The background is more prevalent. The background is more present. We have the far side of the moon, way too visible to the camera. There's no perspective. There's no far side of the painting. And we just added that. All right. And then the hands, or the arms. And then I'm going to shrink my brush to the next stage, which is just anything that is accessory on top of what we just did. So what does that entail? So the bounce light, I'll go to the before to get the old bounce light, so I don't feel like repainting it. Alright, so that means that with a small brush, remember, my brush is shrinking, this is the next place to go. Alright, so this is that bounce light, the ambience, maybe of the stage nearby. This is going to open up. So let me show you with a quick diagram. We cast shadows, we opened up this side of the room. Right, the room goes this way now. We cast shadows here, we opened up this volume. We brought in bounce light here, we opened up from this side. So you see how everything was kind of opening up this way and then this way? Just because we've shifted the room, we have object and then the wall behind the object. The object's facing this way, the wall's going that way. Now we're bringing in light from a new z-axis. So we have a bunch of z-axes on the ground. We did this z-axis, and now we're doing this z-axis. So now we have a pure open space on two z-axis markers, making the room even more open. So by deleting at the shadow and bringing in the bounce light, we've opened up so much space. We can bring in some ambient shine on the crown, just in a small area. There shouldn't be too much, just so that it's slightly visible. Maybe there's some from the bounce light here. There's a little bit more that you've added yourself, maybe on the hair. I don't know if you added any more. Oh yeah, on the on this majig right here. Oh, I deleted that, so I have to do it myself. This color we can make anything. So right now we have this universal warm, maybe sunlight color over here. This color here can be a bit more blue, it can be a bit more yellow, it can be a bit more artificial. I wouldn't think that there's light bulbs, you know, I'm not sure if there's light bulbs or whatever it is, but let me show you the benefit of changing the color. And I'll go through the slider just to show you different combinations. So just changing it to another tone will introduce yet another new quality to the painting. So, you know, we can do a more blue, a more pale value just to show maybe some moonlight. So maybe she's in the Great Hall, there's some really strong light from candles or ambient light, and then just outside is the moonlight shining in. I like this one. And this is more of that navy, but I can't pull it off without lighting it from the main layer. Alright, so we've got a little bit on every finger. Stop outlining. Got some on the fabric. I'll just use my blocking brush. This is the lower part of the canvas. Don't really care about detail all that much. Alright, and then definitely on the front part of the shoulder pad. So the shoulder pad has volume to it. And it leads into a seam just like that. And then the hair is mostly where it's most important, so I'm going to get my detailing brush. By the way, all the brushes you see right now are available on my store if you're interested in them. Okay. You can bring in an ambient moonlight glow. That is also possible. It's got to be very delicate and be tasteful with it. Can't be crazy. So just enough, maybe it's a band of light, and we'll just delete at it eventually. So much can be done with just lighting and understanding the lighting. I'm still not comfortable with all of that shine on the gold. I still want to limit it because the less of it we have, the more important it will be when we do have it. So I'm going to use darken layer using that green. So how do I darken it? I don't darken it with dark orange or dark gold. There's really no such thing. It's just either orange, yellow, or dark red. Those are the main colors of gold. So I'm just going to use the green because I'm worried more about the total color, that total green. And I want to just respond to that beam of light that I'll use with dodge tool eventually. This beam of light. So we brought the ambient light back. We can duplicate that layer too. We brought the glow. The ambient light I want to blur because it's just lower part of the canvas. It's not really important. Blurring is a very powerful tool. Don't forget to blur, y'all. And I'm just going to clean up a little. It's not that important to get that much light because the moonlight is coming from above anyway. Alright, and then I will put that back. Now, the storytelling in this piece is a little bit challenged because I'm not really sure what's happening with her face, and I can decide that now. There's another thing you can do to the lighting that just makes this amazing. I'm going to use dodge tool real quick to spike up those golds really quickly. Don't want to do too much outside of the focal point, but just enough that the texture reads at least. So she looks rich. I know she looks like she's of high status. Copy, go back. This is how dangerous dodge tool is. You can't even take it all. You can't take all of it. You only take some of it. So I'm going to delete anything that dodge tool touched that is not gold, that is not directly golden. You understand? Because the fabric wouldn't glow the way the gold embroidery does. And then I'm going to do a little bit on the crown because it is focal point, but I'll make sure to delete anything that is not crown because it'll just look cheesy. Whenever you see someone using dodge tool like this without monitoring the dodge tool, policing the dodge tool, they've used it wrong. Because it'll get away from you really fast and it'll make your work look mad cheesy, like noob cheesy. Okay, so alright, let's talk about the portrait. She does not look happy in the way she's posing. This is a defensive stance. Her head tilt looks like she's admiring who she's looking at, but the arms don't look very pleased. The hand, by the way, is too exposed. Let me just darken that a little. Except for the palm. I'll leave the palm alone. The upper part of the palm. Yeah, fingers are too small. They're too short. They look like baby fingers. You kind of like need a whole other... Sorry, I'm just kind of distracted right now by the little baby fingers. That should be a little better, and then the index gets its own. Oh. That should be a little bit more tolerable than it was before. Alright, so what I would do for her face, along with the proportion issues, along with correcting those, is I would just, first, there's not enough light, no matter how blue or how beautiful, sparkly the eyes are, there's just never enough light, unless they are glowing, to reveal that much color. And we still have all this color, even in the dark. No, it's not how eyes work. You darken them so they look more realistic. Right, and they darken in the opposite way. If the light's coming from this side, you don't lighten on this side, you darken on the side opposing the light. because the light, they're dished, they're kind of recessed, so they catch the light in a very different way. And they really only catch the light on the inside. And there, yeah, you got a lot of blue in the eye. I'd rather you just use the white. Just you use too much blue. It's good to use a little bit of blue, but it's not like it's a full-blown magazine studio light where we get to see the alteration of that white. It's a very dark scene. But let's talk perspective on the portrait. So you have way too much of the far eye visible. Tuck that away. The belly, the fatness, the bigness of the sphere of the eyeball stands in the way of the rest of the eyeball. The eyeball hides the eyeball. Right? And one thing you can do that will kind of fix the entire expression problem, I need to fix the crown, is just instead of making her eyes look immediately in front of her, I would make the eyes look more shifted. Now she looks like she's thinking about something. Now she's not facing her goal, whatever the thing is she's looking at. She's not looking at it with her body, but she's looking at it with her eyes. That's amazing gestural nuance. That's amazing body language. Meaning that she's watching and eyeing what it is that is displeasing her, but she's still this kinder person, but she's not happy with what she's looking at. See that? Alright, so now there's thought, there's still kindness in her, but now there's just a little bit more thought. Before, she looked a little bit like she's relaxed, facing her, who she's looking at. But here, there's just a little bit more thought involved. I'm going to keep working on it, though. That far eye is not tilted enough. It's because my liquefy jitters, it's hard to manage it from zooming out. I think that's better, and then I'll just fix what I'm looking at here. Oh, did it freeze? Filter, liquefy. Oh, change the tool. Alright. So now we have just a touch more storytelling in the painting. As for the far nostril, too visible. Closer nostril, not visible enough. You're in a 3/4 view, remember that. Trying to plant the face, the features on the face flatly. The far lip corner is to tilt it off. I'll just correct that. And then I need to place this over here. Alright, almost done. Alright, so one thing, now the tilt of the head makes sense. Now we have more reasonable perspective in the 3/4 view. Things are kind of just planted on the symmetry line. So that's where I was shifting everything along the symmetry line. So that one more lighting trick that I was going to do, we can do it, but in moderation, just because she's not in the most kind, glowy Galadriel right now. She's a little bit shifty. There is a bit of a gold glow coming out of this. Let me do one more mini lighting thing. I want to just darken her face radially, dropping the values. There is the gold here, relieving some of that shadow. And I'm just going to place a little. Just a little. I'm going to get the smudge brush and smudge away at anything that is in shadow, because things that are in shadow cannot afford sharpness. Write that back. Meaning that when they are not directly hit by light, there's nothing there to clear up the path so the edge is visible. And the big thing that I was going to do, let me see if my layer modes will pull it off, is getting that main light, that interior tavern great hall glow thing, on yellow and just brushing it over anything the light does see. Look at that. And mostly look at the navigator. We'll delete away at what's dark. You can do this with experimental layers, but you know the goal you're trying to pull off, which is, I mean, lighten works a little bit, but it's too bulky. This does not work. It's just contrast, really. Hard light may work, and then there's soft light. There's also color dodge, but it's just too intense. Soft light is like a nice way to pull this off, and it's just soft brush. And using that main light. So that's why I'm saying we have to do it in moderation, because she has thoughts, you know. A woman with thoughts is dangerous. Alright, and then we have the other eye, which could use some illumination. Oh, son of a bitch. I don't know why it's not letting me shrink the brush. Photoshop. Just a touch. And I'm going to just desaturate that excessive blue. The light environment simply just does not let it come through. And that layer of white that I'm going to add, that I just added with soft brush, a soft light, should help too, but I'm just going to take that down a notch. Just get that warm color and put it onto the eyes. You have these dark circles, which we use on villains just because they're nerds and they stay up all night plotting their evil things. So, you know, if you wanted to give her age but not make her too evil, just soften that up a little bit. I say that, you know, the age around her eyes just does not match. And this ambient light, we're just going to delete it anywhere where there's shadow, obviously. It's just wherever the light is moving in. Is mostly we use it for like sunlight or natural great light. But what it does is that if it's beside a cast shadow, same cast shadow cast by the same light source, it'll bleed into it. See that? Even though the cast shadow's sharpness is still intact. It's a really nice trick. And then, just because it's bothering me, the far side of her face is still, see how I'm only collecting the far side of her face in my lasso. I'm going to take that, paste it, and shift it in, and maybe correct the tilts, and then go back and just clean up the edge. So it's just a little bit off. And then this far part of the eye is also in shadow, so we would not get as much illumination as you applied. In fact, even the blue shouldn't be this blue. And the black is a touch too black. I'm just going to use her. She's a ginger, so you know, unless she's wearing really dark makeup, it doesn't make sense to remove from her fairness and the fair skin and the fair complexion and just plop in a big old black line for the for the eyelid, because it's just not, um, it's too modern makeup to throw into a fantasy. I mean, that's my taste, at least in costume design. And costume design is what I'm always critiquing in these movies that I watch, Witcher and whatnot, because it doesn't make sense sometimes. Like for instance, The Witcher, the way they cast and like Henry Cavill's great, I guess. I mean, I don't think he's the guy, but he's pretty close. But his muscles are just don't make sense to the character because it's too. You know how much grooming goes into keeping your muscles that big? And when I see them cast army, dudes or Halo type movies with these guys who have big muscles, like guys in the army don't look like that. They need high agility. They don't have time to constantly look like that. They have more of a slim athletic figure, not that over groomed bodybuilder, beach body, tournament, speedo body. So always look out for these little details. They're the difference between a professional and a beginner, between classy and looking good and cheesy. And then you're missing the shine, which is actually really big on ginger skin. Just that really, really golden almost glow they have on the inner corner, which the light is reaching. That was a big one that you missed. And then there's a little glow of pink that you missed. Fleshy kind of pink on... Sorry, these idiot road dog biker losers. They only do that when they drive through neighborhoods for some weird toxic reason. They just rev their stupid tiny dick engines. Trying to teach over here. Alright, and a little extra shadow for the eyes. What's the matter with me? Alright. Okay, so see all that, that sass. She's got so much sass now. And I didn't have to change her head tilt. I didn't have to change her gesture. I didn't even have to change her mouth smile. Something about making her eyes look in a different direction from her body completed the story that you were technically writing. I'm going to bring in a little saturation belt in between the cast shadow and the skin. That should help cast shadow feel more authentic. Oops, wrong layer. There seems to be a shadow over here, so I'm going to just carry it that way. The sides of the nose shouldn't be getting shadow on them. And then the mouth isn't really doing mouth things, and that's, if she's going to go to the lengths of wearing makeup on her face, I think she would also be wearing something on her mouth, and it's just the top part of the top lip and halfway through the bottom lip. And that's really all you need to make a mouth look a little bit more hydrated. And I'm just going to use the universal color on it as well, just so to get rid of that excessive dodge look. So top part, top outline of the top lip. It's just because there's sweat there and all kinds of stuff. And the top half, the top cylindrical half of the bottom lip. If it's too shiny for your taste, you can just null it by using the skin tone on darken. We still have our nice climb in the effect. كيفك يا عمري؟ الحمد لله عايشين. Alright, so let's do the full before and after if I have time, which I don't think I do. I'll take a look at something else. I like to thoroughly investigate painting. I don't like to half-ass it, so that's why I wouldn't look at anything else today, but maybe if I could give a quick look. I'm still not used to this. I'm like pressing Control-C a million times before I lose my work. So before, after. So the shadow that we applied, the perspective change on the other half of the moon, open the space behind her. the ambient light, just a nice contrast between all the yellow and green. Her expression before just looked sickly. She looked almost like dead. Like that's how eyes look when they're dead. You know, when you force them open. I don't know why. I would assume that I know what that looks like. The perspective on the face is a little bit off. It made her eyes look in a different direction. That light glow that we brought in from the nearby room does seriously help. I may just boost the specular highlight since, you can't really make a mistake with that since it's focal point on the eyes, just to help the eyes boost. Right, since you can, since you're allowed, why not? It would actually be down here a little. This is why you zoom out, y'all. And that far side of her cheek is really bothering me, so I'm going to just actually get rid of most of that golden glow I brought in and just apply it to the hair instead, since the hair would actually get it, not the face. Yeah, that makes more sense. And just smudge it. I'm just using my number 4 smudger. Alright, so any questions at all about today's paint over? So before, after. It's just so powerful, thinking about the light. It's so beneficial to your painting. There are some more proportion errors that I've just located. So the shoulders actually don't match. One shoulder falls off. So I'm going to raise it up and put it there. And I recommend you apply all these changes. Think about why I did them, just to catch up to the fundamentals you missed. And then upload it on your portfolio. Learn how to critique as you work. Learn how to separate yourself. That was the theme of this month's Patreon rewards. Learning how to critique yourself as you work, so that you can just work crazy and work haphazardly and be okay with the mistakes you're making because you know they're not final and they will be changed. And that way you have more work time. You actually do more in the painting process than if you were too cautious or too in love with your own brushstrokes to take any major changes. Like every single change I made today was a drastic, dramatic difference. Meaning the big old shadow that I threw here, that was a big change. Changing the moon shape so that we have more space in the background. What are tropes in storytelling with lighting that are generally considered tacky? So when the light is coming from like beneath the face, that's really tacky. You have to really have a reason for the light to be coming beneath the face, because it's just so overused. Tacky would also be there's no shadows anywhere. So this before was still beautiful because there's shadows. But like having no shadows anywhere in the portrait, really, really tacky. And kind of funny too. They use that in comedy, like the Napoleon Dynamite or Nacho Libre. Everything is in the broad daylight. Sometimes there's no dramatic mystery, so it looks ridiculous. Looks like you're looking at a stage in broad day. That's also tacky. I'd have to see it. I have to be watching a movie to really point out what looks silly, what looks dumb, and just write it down for you guys and post it somewhere. How do you train yourself to look out for these details? You seem to have a list in your head that you use to investigate if a painting is done. It's what bothers me. It's a visual instinct. Things that I learn along, I'm very observant, so things that I learn along the way from watching movies or my own mistakes from paintings or looking at other paintings and just seeing what I would change just based off what I've seen in movies and what I feel is best for the scene. Someone who's standing with their arms crossed is obvious. I mean, I've watched a lot of those catch the killer lie body language weird documentary shit, so I know that when someone's arms are crossed, they're very defensive. They have negative thoughts or something like that. or they're just, it's an outward motion that sometimes can also be unconscious. So it's like defensive and offensive. So I know that. So that's why we know where she was before. Her face looked very tender. So I just didn't seem like it matched. It was a very relaxed crossing of the arms, but it was still arms getting crossed. Maybe she's standing formally, but she's in the background. But why is she in the background? Why is there a cast shadow over her? She doesn't seem like she's being treated with much respect if she's supposed to be royalty out front and center. So that means that she's in the background. She's not, no one's really respecting her opinion. In the after, arms are up, she's in the background. Now it makes a little bit more sense why she's in the background. She has a little bit more thought, or representing the thought that's happening in her head. The hair is not symmetrical, kind of bothering me too. It seems like it's more tighter on the far side than the front side, but um, mm, what are ways to be more self-aware to the kind of light source storytelling to use? How do you tell the story you actually want, not accidentally telling something else? That's a really big problem a lot of artists face. It's a problem even movie, developers face, directors. It's just you have to remember how you are going to be perceived as the audience. So being able to remove yourself as the creator and just looking as the audience. If you're talking about a character in the background against a banner with a cast shadow over their head, you're instantly talking mysterious, suspicious, drama. So darken the room a little bit. Then, what are they doing out there in the shadows? They're probably planning something, thinking, at least minimally thinking. So how do you show something someone is thinking? So you just think about gestures there. And so just break it down. Honestly, the best way to not accidentally tell something else is to write down what you mean and then take concrete choices in the painting process for avoiding those accidents. What are tropes in storytelling with lighting that are generally considered tacky? How do you train yourself? I'm not sure what you just wrote, Ahmed Hudayb. I can read it, but ما أفتهم شنو هالكلمة. When is a good time to use specific colors like evil green and Disney? What are some other colors that give an instant read? So red, obviously, danger. Yellow is used for holy and safe. Yellow is always almost safe, but there's different types of yellows. You have yellows that are golden, that are godly, that are divine, and then you have yellows that are sickly, that are decay. You have greens that are more blue, that represent more of a magical green, a more infused with magic kind of. And then you have more earthy greens that just show vitality, safety. And then you have a really yellow green that if darkened, because dark yellow doesn't exist, can also show decay. But this can be a neutral carrier between two primaries that are saturated. It really just depends on if this color is used abundantly, then yes, this shows decay. Then you got straight up poop. All right. And then you've got deep reds. You've got bluish reds, which I would associate with magic. Purple, magic all the time. When I was a kid and someone would ask me what my favorite color is, I'd be like, purple. And they'd be like, why? And I was like, 'cause it's the magic color. I just remembered that. I just used to think that the purple is magic. Like, purple is actually a magical thing. Like, if I chose a purple crayon, my drawing would look better. Just because it's like magic. Because I love purple. It's just a mesmerizing color. It's so unique. But yeah, magical elements there. But there's different types of blues. There's sky blue, there's deep blue, there's green blue, there's sea blue, there's royal blues, there's navy, there's pastels. Pastels are just generally inoffensive, general presence of color, but color is not more important than the lines. So you'll find a lot of pastels, in fact, used in animating. Look at your favorite animation and you'll see they don't use any vivids. It's always pastels. just because the lines also have to work for the sake of the animation. Um, yeah, that's it. There's a lot that you can do with different combinations of all of that. You can use a pukey green, but have a nice nearby color to accommodate for the loss of saturation, and then you'll won't get the read of the pukey decay. There's skin tones that are more pale, skin tones that are more rosy and lively. Again, there's just so much. But write down your stories, write them down. What is exactly happening so that we can estimate what needs to be applied, physically applied to the painting process. So that I open my I open my rescheduled journal for private tutoring. Silly girl. All right, I'll let you guys go. Thank you everyone for watching. If you want to give back to the community, if you learned something today, join me on Patreon as a watcher. There's a reason why I call the $1 tier a watcher. It's just a long-term commitment. It's just $12 a year. But it's affordable to a lot of people, and you just watch over the community and provide support, but with a very, I guess, inoffensive amount. But if you do want to get more of my personal content, my brushes, my full private videos, lessons, critiques, all of that, the different tiers just expose you to more of the educational material. To join us, go to istebrak.com and click on the Reddit icon in the top right corner. That is right? Yeah. And join. I will be uploading the blurbs for the new community challenges towards the end of the summer. As soon as I, slowly get back into it, I don't want to freak myself out and start personal writing on top of getting back into Critique Hour, on top of getting back into Patreon and private tutoring and still doing house projects. It's a lot for me to manage. So I'm just slowly getting back into it. Um, but yeah, join us on the Reddit community. And that's it. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you guys hopefully this Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Love you guys very much. I'm very happy to be back. And thank you again for 100K. I'm so proud. Bye, guys.